It may surprise you to hear that the Assumption of Mary was only defined as a dogma by Pope Pius XII in 1950. And therefore, it might seem somewhat like a new teaching. And I think at its heart, the discussion through the ages of the Assumption of Mary is, while it is certainly about what happened to Mary at the end of her life, her earthly life, I think there's also a question under there of what is Mary's role in the church today? Was her role to be the Mother of God, to raise Jesus and to be with him in this earthly life, and then that's it? Or does she continue to play an important role today? And so we have to look back and see how this teaching unfolded and how we came to understand what Mary's role is. And the first hints of that are referenced in our two readings. In the first reading, we hear from Revelation the woman in the sky, clothed with the stars. But right before that, it references the ark. And in the Old Testament, the Ark of the Covenant was what contained God. They carried this ark around with them everywhere. They carried it into battle. They brought it into their holy cities. They paraded with it on their festivals. And this ark was where God dwelled in a special way. And so it's no surprise that the early church fathers saw Mary as the Ark of the New Covenant, where God actually physically dwelt within. And in our second reading, we hear reference to Jesus as the new Adam. The first Adam having failed the human race and fallen into sin, but Christ as the new Adam who was able to triumph over sin and death and to restore us to the gifts that God wanted to give the first Adam. But where would Adam be without Eve? And so again, it's no surprise that from the earliest days of our church, we saw Mary as the new Eve, helping Adam, the new Adam, to overcome sin. And I think Mary's words in the Magnificat today are also strikingly beautiful. While she is certainly beautifully humble, she can't help but recognize the profound truth when she says, "From this day, all generations will call me blessed. The Almighty has done great things for me, and holy is his name." In the 2nd and 3rd centuries, there were references to the Transitus Mariae, Latin for the crossing over of Mary. But there's no clearer witness to what would eventually be the dogma of the Assumption than the writing of St. John Damascene in the 700s. He says, "It was necessary that she who preserved her virginity inviolate in childbirth should also have her body kept free from corruption after death. It was necessary that she who carried the Creator as a child on her breast should dwell in the tabernacles of God. It was necessary that the bride espoused by the Father should make her home in the bridal chambers of heaven. It was necessary that she who gazed on her crucified Son and had been pierced in the heart by the sword of sorrow which she had escaped in giving him birth, should contemplate him seated with the Father. It was necessary that the Mother of God should share the possessions of her Son and be venerated by every creature as the mother and handmaid of God." And as a result of this and the writings of many others, we came to see Mary as having this privileged place in heaven, being assumed body and soul. And we came to understand the implications that means for us here on earth. St. Maximilian Kolbe, who was killed in the gas chambers and he was starved to death in Auschwitz, in 1940, 9 years before the Assumption was declared dogma, wrote this of Mary: "It is beyond all doubt that Mary's will represents to us the will of God Himself. By dedicating ourselves to her, we become in her hands instruments of God's mercy, even as she was an instrument in God's hands. We should let ourselves be guided and led by Mary and rest quiet and secure in her hands. She will watch out for us, provide for us, answer our needs of body and spirit. She will dissolve all our difficulties and worries." And Pope Benedict XVI continued in that vein when he said, "We may be sure of it. From on high, Mary follows our footsteps with gentle concern, dispels the gloom in moments of darkness and distress, reassures us with her motherly hand." I've thrown a few somewhat lengthy quotes at you, and my intention isn't to overwhelm you. It's to show you that throughout our history, some of the greatest men and women of our church have not only believed this about Mary, but have constantly and continuously relied on her help. Mary is the mother that was given to the whole human race by Jesus on the cross. She is the Ark of the New Covenant, carrying God within her, leading the people to victories against the enemies of sin and death. She is the new Eve, helping Christ, the new Adam, to undo the damage of the first Adam and Eve. And those jobs did not end sometime in the 1st century when Mary left this world. Her work continues to this day in a more profound way than any other saint. And if there's any doubt of that, we need to look no further than Lourdes, Fatima, Guadalupe, and countless others. And while there are many, many writings on our Blessed Mother, some of which I've given you insights into today, I think if there's one thing that you could take from this, one thing to remember about Mary and her role in the church today, it would be the motto of our previous bishop, Bishop Joseph McFadden: Mary the model, Jesus the center. Mary the model, Jesus the center.